Well, the highlight of today in Hungarian politics was a press conference given by our Prime Minister, Peter Magyar. Now, he spoke on several topics, which I'll describe in a second, but the last and the least important thing discussed was something that actually happened yesterday. When he and his Minister for Transport, David Vitezi, they were walking around Nyugati train station, that's Western train station, speaking about the new investment in the Hungarian train system. An investment, I think, of 3,500 billion Hungarian forints. While they were there walking around, there was a passerby, some dude waiting for his train, no doubt, and he started heckling abuse. Now, I couldn't hear what he said, and I couldn't tell whether it was aimed at the Minister of Transport or Prime Minister. I'm guessing the Prime Minister, but apparently he was both abusive and then he spat at one or both of them. Now, since then, the Prime Minister has made a statement, which he repeated today, that he does not want to press charges for assault. On the other hand, he hasn't pressed charges, but someone has pressed charges in his name. So whether he didn't want to or did want to is neither here nor there. So the dude's going to be charged with assault. But what he did say, and I'm quite happy about, is that he's not going to increase his security. He's not going to separate himself by having lots of ninjas, or police ninjas around him, and he's not going to be wearing a bulletproof vest. This is all hyperbole, of course. Peter Magyar is not at risk in any way. However, while I do like that he's doing that, some things haven't changed in the Hungarian government, specifically when it comes to his ministers. Before, one of the many things that Tisza complained about with the previous Fidesz government was that there was a caste system, effectively. There was the elites and the people underneath them, and they were separated. And Tisza said that they were going to get rid of this separation, and the government is going to be working for the people, among the people. However, we still have the case that ministers and secretaries, they get private cars, they get a chauffeur, and the chauffeur normally doubles as a bodyguard, which is, if you haven't lived in Hungary, you wouldn't understand this, but it's completely ridiculous. Hungary is a very safe place. These people are not going to get assaulted on the street. And having this separation where you leave the parliament, you sit in your little chauffeured car and you go home, they drop you off, it's a bad step and it's a bad move because, they're not Fidesz, but the separation is effectively the same. Now, moving on to what actually was discussed that is important at today's press conference. The new government has filed formal criminal complaints against Exim Bank for 4 major projects worth roughly 1 trillion forints that it says were riddled with abuse. That means theft. 2 high-profile cases involve people close to the previous power structure. There is a luxury hotel deal connected to Viktor Orban's son-in-law, and a massive African infrastructure loan linked to Laszlo C. In both, the state took on heavy risks or guarantees that benefited private interests, and Magyar today presented this as the first concrete step in cleaning up what he calls the previous system's oligarchic capture of state financing institutions. Actually, just a few weeks after the election, my mother-in-law, she lives up the top of a Buddha hill, and we were dropping the kids off, or I was dropping the kids off, and as I come out, there's a big, I think what used to be a hospital or maybe a school beside it, and sitting in front was Viktor Orban's son-in-law, and he's sitting in his convertible purple Bentley, and he's one of the reasons. He's a prime example of why people turned against Fidesz. So I'm not surprised to see his name come up in a case. Not surprised at all. Now, a second thing they spoke about were 2 more large Exim Bank deals which are under criminal investigation. One is a €1 billion soft loan to North Macedonia that Hungarian taxpayers effectively subsidize through a state guarantee and below market interest. The other is a huge railway car manufacturing project for Egypt that fell apart after Russia pulled out. The Hungarian partner still managed to extract a large dividend while leaving contracts unfulfilled and putting the state railway at risk. These cases illustrate how preferential state-backed financing was extended abroad with little regard for Hungarian fiscal interests. He also spoke a little bit about the economy. The government expects this year's budget deficit to land around 7.5% of GDP, which is higher than hoped for, in Magyar's view. The unavoidable result of the fiscal mess left behind. That's what you have to do. You've always got to say, well, it would be great, but, it was the guys before, they sucked. Now, looking ahead, he said the aim is to bring the deficit comfortably under 6% in 2027. The message was that painful consolidation is necessary after years of loose spending. Then he spoke about Gondos Óra program, which he called Full Theft. Now, this was a flagship social program meant to help elderly people, and it's being investigated for massive corruption in how it was rolled out. Magyar insists that the idea itself was good, that the possible previous execution was nothing but pure theft. These are strong words. The government wants the probe to succeed without jeopardizing European money that could still support a properly run version. This actually hits home for me, because when I was involved in tech, I started in tech 13 years ago, we approached the government with an idea for exactly this. The company I was involved with, we had a patent for something exactly like this, and they turned us down just immediately. And it's disappointing because the thing we made existed, it would have worked, it could have been used, it would have been a great deal, the elderly would have benefited from it. But instead, we have this situation where some other people did a program but effectively did nothing, and a lot of money has gone missing. Now, he also spoke about the spitting incident. He rejected calls for tighter security, thank God, because he prefers to stay accessible. And then he asked for patience. He openly asked Hungarians to be patient while the remaining holdovers of the old system are cleared out. He framed the process as the completion of a real regime change that cannot be finished overnight, given how thoroughly the previous administration embedded itself and, in his words, lied about every aspect of governance. And then he also welcomed the resignation of Chief Prosecutor Gábor Bálint Nagy as recognition that a regime change is occurring, clearing the way for professional, non-political work, although I'm guessing the person who's going to replace him is going to be very pro-Tisza. He said on the next president of the Republic, remember we had this problem here with Judit Polgár, the decision belongs to the Tisza parliamentary group, not to him personally, and there's no rush, and the candidate need not be a lawyer. And finally, I think this is quite an interesting one. He has spoke about ordering a complete overhaul of the State Audit Office. Now, the State Audit Office is going to undergo a thorough review so it actually can do its job of protecting public money. Magyar has accused it of being politically biased under the previous government. I'm sure that's the case. Never spotting irregularities on the ruling side while regularly targeting the opposition. That's probably slightly true. And he said that that practice must end. And then this is something that might scare a bunch of people that got wealthy in illegal ways. He said that a long-term program of wealth probes will examine politicians and their immediate families for the last 2 decades. That's going back a really long time. The government is presenting this as a break from the selective, politically motivated checks of the past and a way to restore trust that public office has not been used for personal enrichment. And last but not least, there was the good note that he said that the government will introduce zero VAT on prescription medicine. So that's going to please a lot of people, mainly the elderly. Hungary is not like the United States and not even like the United Kingdom. You literally can't go to a doctor and say, ooh, my back hurts, can I have some opioids? Most of the time they'll say, if you go in and say, ooh, my back hurts, then they might say something as blatant as, well, you're fat, you might need to lose weight. Or they could say, go get some paracetamol, because you're not getting any drugs. But anyway, so no VAT on prescription medicine. That at least is a positive sign. It was a long press conference, as is always the case with Peter Magyar. Some of the same things I liked, some of the things I liked less. But overall, it's good that he's communicating, even if his style might be a little bit abrasive at times. If you like my content, by the way, Please help me out. Like, subscribe, share. Thanks a lot.